Right, so rail strikes. We've had them before, of course, but the strike action balloted for this time is a little bit different. No Mick Lynch this time. We're not talking about the RMT, so sorry to disappoint you there, perhaps. Lynch is a competent trade unionist, and his union have a great deal of respect for the man, as do many members of the public who have seen him bodying anyone trying to go up against him and failing miserably. Now, the union in question is the TSSA, the Transport Salaried Staffs Association, a union that had already been rocked by the exposure of bullying and sexual harassment in the ranks to the point a full inquiry into matters had to be launched and was carried out by Baroness Helena Kennedy, a KC, which resulted in the previous General Secretary Manuel Cortes being sent packing. The reason for the strike action now is because despite promises to implement the recommendations of the Kennedy Report, which itself followed on from another report into bullying and intimidation, the Conley Report, it hasn't happened. It appears nothing has actually changed at all, despite the election of a new General Secretary, who incredibly has, in the space of just 6 months, driven members to the point of taking strike action again, for all the same reasons, it appears, as before. Right, so the TSSA are going on strike. Rail strikes again. The TSSA are a rail union, but not exclusively so. They represent workers from across the travel and tourism industry, and as such, represent people from rail to shipping to IT. It's a union that's been mired with problems for a significant length of time, though, as the Kennedy Report showed. The union harboured a culture of sexual harassment, bullying and intimidation of staff. It was so damning, the senior figures were swiftly removed or resigned. The house was supposed to have been cleaned out, and a new era for the union should have been about to begin. That should have been what happened. But it hasn't, so it would seem. Naturally, there had to be a new General Secretary elected, and the Kennedy Report recommended that this should be someone promoted to that level from within the ranks, someone familiar with the union, how it works, its membership, their needs represented by the necessary experience. Common sense, you would think. Sadly, that didn't pan out. Rather unfairly, those in the TSSA overseeing the process chose to publicly back one candidate above all others, making a recommendation to members on who to vote for. The establishment's choice, you might say. The TSSA's own website still has this advice on it, and it reads, "The process is underway to elect our union's next General Secretary. It is up to you, our members, to decide who leads our union. The way we elect our General Secretary has changed for this election. For the first time, your Executive Committee has nominated a candidate and is recommending that members vote for Manuel Cortes as the candidate best placed to implement the cultural change that TSSA needs and deliver membership growth and industry success. Free and fair elections, therefore, not. Because not if you're making a recommendation, not if you're advising your members on who to vote for out of the choice before them. It's a bit of a stretch to say it's fair, really, isn't it? On the face of it, it looked like real change was coming anyway, and all-women selection for General Secretary, President and Treasurer ended up being elected, and that General Secretary post being held by a woman for the very first time, Manuel Cortes indeed getting the nod, the former mayor of Camden as she was, but not someone from within the rank and file. Someone with limited or no apparent experience in working in trade unionism, despite widely disputed claims she put in her campaign literature, having stated in her literature that "I'm the only candidate in this race with high-level trade union and Labour Party experience." Yet despite a rather detailed LinkedIn profile, there's no sign of that trade union background anywhere in it. And it's worth noting that one of the people she was running against was literally one of the whistleblowers from within the TSSA who helped to expose the abuse of Manuel Cortes. She's claimed since, in response to media scrutiny, that she worked for UCAT, Union of Construction Allied Trades and Technicians, which dissolved in 2017. So why not make mention of it then? 11 months working at a gentleman's club did make her LinkedIn, so go figure. So what's gone wrong then? Well, for instance, the women's group who exposed the behaviour of previous General Secretary Manuel Cortes has been de-recognised amidst claims of a continuing culture of intimidation and bullying under the new leadership. But who do you complain to when your employer is a trade union? Well, this is why most staff of a trade union are members of another trade union. And in the case of TSSA employees, they are represented by the GMB. And having taken their complaints to their trade union, all of a sudden, Cortes took to the newspapers, and in a piece in The Guardian, apparently claimed the GMB were trying to take over her union now. An excerpt reads, Mariam Eslam-Doost, the left-leaning General Secretary of the Transport Salaried Staffs Association, claims that the GMB union is using an in-house agreement to block staff recruitment and take control of the white-collar union to access its buildings. She claimed spurious bullying allegations have been launched against her as part of a takeover plot, and that Gary Smith, the head of the GMB and an ally of Keir Starmer, has refused to defuse the row. In response, the GMB has described Eslam-Doost's allegations as utter nonsense and says it has no plans to take over the rail union. Note the casual reference to Gary Smith's Labour Party allegiances there to Starmer versus Eslam-Doost's Corbyn credentials, which the piece also mentions, she having worked in policy under his leadership. It has to be shoehorned in somewhere, doesn't it? Because he's still living rent-free in their heads. But that is by the by, as far as this story goes. According to reporting by Squawkbox, who have closely followed this story, been closely monitoring what's been going on in the TSSA, far above any other media outlets, doing fantastic pieces of work on that. That Guardian piece apparently came in response to an email from Eslam-Doost and TSSA President Melissa Haywood to the GMB reps in the TSSA, accusing the TSSA's senior management team, SMT, of power hoarding, promoting falsehoods and attacking the integrity of reps despite attempts to resolve issues and avoid industrial action. The emailed reply also accuses Eslam-Doost of refusing regular meetings with reps, cancelling staff meetings, denying an agreement to award staff a pay increase despite records of the agreement, and adopting a vindictive approach to anyone who challenges her. The long and the short of it is that all of this has led to strike action, and to underline just how aggrieved GMB members of the TSSA are, with their new bosses already, on an 86% turnout, 93% of them have voted for industrial action. 6 months it's taken Eslam-Doost, she's only been in the job since last October, to drive a union already tired of being abused to initiate industrial action again for the same thing, it seems. It just beggars belief. More bullying, more intimidation are the charges. Since then, the TSSA member for Scotland has resigned, citing they could no longer work with Eslam-Doost. And a motion of no confidence in the new all-female top three has been passed unanimously at an all-staff meeting last week. Today, another no-confidence vote, this time by Network Rail workers in South London, in both Eslam-Doost and Haywood, has now passed as well. The response to all of that? Doubling down, and in the last few days, certainly, an email has been issued to TSSA member branches implying those going on strike are greedy and lazy and blaming the GMB for being drivers of the strike action. Thankfully, there is some clarity to be pointed to by the GMB, representing their members, spelling out some of the truth of the matter, attempting to explain to them exactly what is going on. Why don't you just sit down and talk to each other? Why let it go this far? We have asked repeatedly for the General Secretary, President and Treasurer to honour our existing avoidance of dispute procedures by meeting us at ACAS for non-binding arbitration. This would still be our preferred route to solve the real and serious issues at hand. However, the leadership has refused or simply ignored this request. The General Secretary has claimed that the GMB union are using an in-house agreement to block staff recruitment. Is this true? GMB members are not seeking to block the appointment of new staff. All we want is for our existing transparent procedures to be upheld, which is not happening. We would welcome recruitment to fill the 9 existing organising vacancies, which could do much to increase our ability to recruit and organise in the workforce. 5 months later, the General Secretary has yet to provide us with job descriptions. Had she come to us with the job descriptions at any point in the last 5 months, we would have been happy to consult so that the roles could move forward to advertising. It is simply not true to say that the GMB is blocking recruitment. We are just insisting that the creation of entirely new roles follows our existing transparent processes. How about the General Secretary's claims that the dispute is being fabricated as part of a takeover plot by the GMB, or to distract from other problems within the GMB? These false allegations seem designed purely to distract from the very real problems at the heart of this dispute. Our dispute existed last autumn, well before the latest allegations about the GMB came to light. Our General Secretary is well aware of this. We are disappointed that she has chosen to misrepresent our dispute and make false allegations to the Guardian rather than meet us at ACAS. Why haven't you met with the EC to discuss your concerns directly? We have not received any invitation from the EC. We are open to meeting with them and welcome the opportunity to explain our issues to them. If the EC requested a meeting with the GMB, that's not been conveyed to us by the General Secretary or AGS. This is a worrying reminder of the previous Cortes regime when the EC and staff were kept apart from each other. The General Secretary says that nothing has been raised through the agreed internal processes. Why not? The GMB reps have raised collective concerns through the established bargaining machinery at meetings in November, January and twice in March, and also in correspondence since November 2023, to no avail. Claims that there is no bullying or harassment. The General Secretary is aware of complaints about bullying and a culture of fear within the TSSA. They have been raised repeatedly in formal negotiation meetings between November and March. In addition, one member of staff submitted a complaint under TSSA's bullying policy against the General Secretary to the independent investigator Howlett Brown in December last year. This was after a vindictive and targeted bullying campaign against this member for a period of months. Bullying of a trade union rep, one of our trade union representatives, has been subject to hostile behaviour and bullying by the General Secretary since last November. This has included sending an intimidatory email to the rep, circulating that email to every member of the staff body, and repeatedly lying about him and denigrating him to other staff in what appears to be an attempt to destroy his reputation. It's been another absolutely crazy 6 months, it seems, for the TSSA, at a point when, by rights, things should have settled down for them by now. I personally cannot see, in light of all of this madness, how Maryam Eslamdouche can carry on in light of it. These allegations under her leadership, her authority is completely shot by now. Surely 2 lots of no confidence votes. More likely to come, by any chance? Certainly plausible. And the response, which is overwhelming by members, and I think the favouritism shown during the election process shows those overseeing the process have done nothing but harm the union as well, ongoing. Of course, it isn't just certain trade unions where there's a dearth of decent leadership, as the party they created, Labour, has a duffer at the helm as well. Watch this video recommendation next, which covers the massive bust-up at the National Policy Forum last year, where instead of putting forward policy to be agreed with the trade unions, Starmer played his favourite trick of binning policy again instead. Not the sort of people you can get away with that kind of stunt with, was it, Keith? You going to learn this time round? Well, we'll see. I'll hopefully catch you on the next vid, though. Cheers, folks.